So our topic here is considering inflation, stagflation, unemployment, and Phillips curve. Okay, that's the topic, lecture 8. Inflation, stagflation, unemployment, and Phillips curve. So, as an introduction, we'll consider definitions. We'll look at the measures of unemployment or measurement of unemployment, okay? We'll consider the types of unemployment. Then we'll go to the Phillips curve. In the Phillips curve, that's where we'll now consider the types of inflation. We now consider the relationship between inflation and unemployment. And then we now consider the augmented Phillips curve, the adjustment of the Phillips curve, or the Phillips curve in the long run. And we then consider policy options that we have, all right, in the long run, okay? All right. So this is more or less like a year 1, year 2 topic. This first part I'm just discussing. So it's just going to be a refreshing course, or the aspect is going to be refreshing. It is actually when we get to Phillips curve that talks about what you should know, all right, at this level. Of course, as an economist in year 3, you know what unemployment is, okay? When we have those that are willing and they are able and they are searching for a job, but they can't find any, okay? You need to also understand that defining unemployment is ambiguous to an extent. Ambiguous in the sense that when you are defining your unemployment, you need to consider your age boundary. Very important. And your unemployment is time bound, okay? Is time bound. When you get to your year 4 and they are teaching you the unemployment, this topic, you still do it in year 4, but at that year 4, you are dealing with unemployment, inflationary expectations, and you now begin to look at the adaptive and rational expectations. At that point, is dynamic expectation, inflationary expectations, unemployment adjustment. Those parts are dynamic. In year 4, they're now telling you or bringing in the time dimension of unemployment. So when I mean that unemployment, when I say unemployment is a little ambiguous in definition, is ambiguous with respect to the age boundary. 1 is ambiguous with respect to the time dimension. Whenever you discuss unemployment, you must consider what period are you considering, what time frame are you looking at. So that is why unemployment talks about those are unwilling. Sorry, those that are willing to work, they are able, but they don't find a job. The able there talks about legal capacity to work. Note that being able talks about the legal capacity to work, not necessarily incapacitated, not necessarily physically challenged. No. Of course, you know, for today, as at now, the blind are among us. They go to school. The lame are also going to school. Everybody is going to school. So there are no great challenges posed by physical disabilities. No. The boundaries are off. Even in Olympics that they just concluded, you can see as many different types of games and sports that are available. So when we're talking about an able, we're not just saying that they have body and soul. That even if the person has chronic disease, the person is still qualified to work. But able, that talks about ability within the confines of the law. All right. And as I said, it is a bit ambiguous. International Labour Organization identifies that the age group at which people are qualified to work is within 15 and 65 years. All right. They fall into the labor force. Okay, working age. Nigeria considers 15 to 64. US considers 16 years and above. That tells you unemployment is, the definition is a bit ambiguous, is a bit dynamic. It's not fixed, it's not straight. So in US, somebody that is 15 years that is working is child labor, is child abuse. But in Nigeria, someone that is 15 years and is working is no longer child abuse, is no longer child labor, because that person is able, according to the confines of the law. All right. So that is the time age part there. Again, is the time dimension. When you're talking about unemployment in time dimension, you need to consider at what point are those people not engaged. That is why in Nigeria, unemployment comes out every quarter. The unemployment rate at quarter 1, 2020 will definitely be different from quarter 2, 2020. So people are unemployed at a given period of time, and they are always switch in employment, unemployment, employment. The labor market, it is dynamic. There's always a switch. At times it's instantaneous. So you actually calculating the growth rate of unemployment is not fixed. It must be dynamic model so that it can capture the changes that are happening at the go, on the go, sorry. Changes that are happening on the go. Okay? That also poses a question for you. All right? I taught this particular course, just the unemployment aspect of it in year 1. And somebody asked that, sir, what about all these people that are 5 years old doing movie, Ikorodu boys that are 12 years, 8 years, and all of that doing movie? Are we going to say they are able to? Okay, that is a question for you to answer. Okay, so we need to understand that concept of unemployment. Okay, again, you need to understand the concept of full employment. When we say an economy is in full employment, that does not mean unemployment does not exist. But what we are saying is that if economy is in full employment, any unemployment that exists must be equal to the number of vacancies that are available. Why? At every point in time, people will be resigning. And at every point in time, there will always be job vacancies. Some of us, of our relatives, imagine they finish school, I want to get a job, I want to work in bank, and they are shouting, bank, bank. When they start that bank, for example, I won't mention any bank because this is online. When they start any of those jobs in that bank, give it 2-3 years, they want to leave. Some just want to leave. They want to leave the job. They are tired. They have worked. They are tired. They want to leave. I want to leave. I want to leave. All right. And people are leaving. Of course, the next thing now is Canada. They run to Canada. People are leaving. So there's job vacancy every day. Every day. Check many organizations. Some recruit twice a year, some 3 times a year, some January at the beginning, some during October. Okay, when October, November, when batch A has finished service by March, April. Okay, so each organization always recruit. So when we say an economy is in full employment, there will always be a particular level of unemployment. When we get to Phillips curve, we will now understand that unemployment rate that exists at full employment. So even if that economy is robust, unemployment will exist there. What we are saying is that the number of people searching for job is equal to the vacancy rate we have in the economy. That means the economy is in full employment. So when I say Nigeria is at full employment, that does not mean there is no unemployment existing. Take note. Take note. But that means that the number of people that are actually searching for job is equal to the number of vacancies that we have. We only have a time lag in matching your number of people searching for job and the vacancies we have. That's just a time lag. It's dynamic. In your year 4, you deal extensively with that. It's dynamic. You only have a mismatch, a time lag, T-1, T-2, T-3. You only have a time lag between when, all right, there are job vacancies then those people are filling it up. People are just moving from one job to the other. They are in search of better pay. Of course, when somebody leaves a job, the organization will have a rethink that this vacancy we are creating, there's a need for us to review the pay. Okay, that's at full employment, because the person must have left the job willingly for a better one. So people begin to ask, is it that there are no people working for it? Example of that full employment can occur, all right, in the informal sector, Nigerian informal sector. Under the Nigerian informal sector, we can say there is full employment. Let me explain how. Look at informal sector. Informal sector is someone, for example, informal sector is let's look at the Okada business, Okada business. All this Okada business, I'm doing Okada business. Okay, go and meet those people doing Okada business. All right, there are always people that want to ride Okada. They are only waiting for somebody that will buy Okada for them on hire purchase. So that is why each time you buy that, you say, I have money to buy Okada. Somebody, one outside man will always come and I want to ride. Because why? The vacancy there is similar to the job provisions they are making. The same thing goes to all these tailor. Go to all these tailor. You see a woman that has big fashion house, tailor, that has like 5-7 machines that are sewing. When you get there, you'll be seeing people that are begging, the woman will be saying there's no space, so I already have workers. If one refuses to come to work, come and so that the woman just the next day, hey man, go. The woman will bring someone that will replace her immediately. That one will learn and do graduation. So you discover that in that sector, they don't really lack workers. Once they need a worker, the worker just appears. All right. So you must understand when the economy says, oh, we are at full employment. Please understand it. Don't go outside that as an economist and somebody tells you, oh, we are at full employment, and you say that means unemployment rate is 0. Don't do that. Don't say that. You can go for an interview and they ask you if an economy is at full employment. Does not mean there's no unemployment, and you look and you smile. 100 is equals to employment minus unemployment. So if the economy is at full employment, that means employment is 100%, unemployment is 0%. Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't collect University of Lagos certificate and go out there to go and say it. Please don't try it. Please. I'm the one teaching you this topic now. Please. So you should understand and you smile and say, well, that does not mean there is no level of unemployment. We have unemployment that is still existing even at full employment, though it might be within the boundaries of 1 to 5%. You would know when we get to the Phillips curve, though it might be within the boundaries of 1 to 5%. What we are just saying is that the unemployment that is existing there is equivalent to the vacancy rates that we have. Please. So, as also a way of recapping, you also know how to calculate unemployment. Okay. Of course, I don't need to teach you that one. Unemployment is what? Your labor force, all right, minus your employed over your labor force, okay? I don't need to teach you that. Look at how Nigeria classifies their population. Of course, you have done this also in your human resource or labor economics in your year 2, so I'm not going to dwell so much on that. I only want to clarify that conceptual definition. That's what I want to do, to clear that conceptual definition you understand, because you need to understand that as a noun. Just like when we get to inflation, so I also tell, just like when people tell you, when somebody comes and tell you, prices are always increasing every day. Rice is increasing, and they say government is doing well, and they say inflation is 5%. Okay? Somebody comes and tell you, prices are increasing, price keeps on increasing. And they say government said inflation rate is 5%. Why is it happening? I need someone to answer that question. Please raise your hand if you know the answer of that question. Let me know. Because you need to understand some economic terms while you are talking. Somebody should raise his hand and answer that question. How will you answer that woman, that market woman, that come and tell you, hey, Germany, mo ń ka economics ní school kí lẹ ń kà ń bẹ̀ kí lẹ ń kà tí gbogbo nǹkan kan ń wọ́n báyìí káàkiri ẹ dẹ̀ ní pé inflation ti wálẹ̀ ní pé inflation ní 5%. What will be your answer? Somebody should please talk. 3 marks. 3 marks. Oh, you are now you are raising your hand now because I said 3 marks. Anima Shaun, oh yeah. What will be your response?
Well, good morning, sir. So
Leave
for me,
just answer me. What will be your response?
response would be that the inflation rate is not always calculated on every single commodity. It's like on the basket, on all commodities in the food basket. So maybe the one that she's saying was not captured, probably. Something like that.
Thank you. Are you economics or education?
No, economics major.
Okay. And away, similarly away, Nigeria. What is your answer? Similarly away, Nigeria. What's your answer?
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
So I think it is because inflation is also calculated on an annualized basis. So from between, say, June and July, the price of commodities might increase. But on an annualized basis, inflation might have slowed down. So it's possible that while the inflation rate is going down, month on month, prices are still increasing.
Okay. Away, thank you. Are you economics major or education?
Economics major, sir.
Okay. Oh yeah, now somebody should talk again. 3 marks is going no. What is your response to that woman? Is going, gone. You see, you need to understand concepts. Very, very important. When they say inflation is 5%, initially, inflation was 10%, right? They now said inflation has declined to 5%, okay? And the woman now tells you, and you're saying everything has increased and inflation has come down. Listen, what is inflation? Inflation is what? The rate of growth in prices, the rate of growth in prices. All we are saying is that the rate at which prices is increasing has slowed down from 10% to 5%. That does not mean prices are not still rising. So prices are still rising, but just at the rate at which is increasing has slowed down from 10% to 5%. So that tells you that prices of goods will still be increasing. Are we together? It is only when inflation is 0% or we're on negative trajectory, that is a decline, that's a deflation. That's when you actually see prices falling. But what we are saying is that prices are increasing, but that extent to which is increasing is no longer 10%, but 5%. Just a very simple explanation to show this. All right. Just a very simple explanation to actually show this. Initially, inflation was 10%. Remember, inflation is reported on monthly basis. So I hope you know that every second week of the month, 14th, 15th, I think so, inflation figure for the last month is declared. So is reported on monthly basis. So if inflation was 10%, what we are saying is that for last month, on average, if a bag of Gary is 100 naira for the previous, remember again, inflation, all right, we are defining is what? Year on year basis. Year on what? Year on year basis. You must understand that. Okay, what does that mean? We're in August now, all right? So let's assume that June inflation was 10%. What are they saying? They are saying if you compare the prices of goods and services in June 2021, compare it to June 2020, prices increased by what? 10%. That is year on year. And we have month on month. So for June, if inflation was 10%, what does that tell you? It tells you that if a bag of rice was 100 naira last year, this year is going to be what? 110 naira for that month. In July, all right, if inflation declines to 5%, what does that tell you? It's telling you that that bag of rice that was 110 is now going to increase by what? 5%. And 5% of 110 is what? Is 5.5. So that means a bag of rice will now be what? 100 and what? 15.5. That does not mean prices will not increase. Price will increase from 110 naira to 115 naira. Only that the rate at which is increasing as what? Has declined. Assuming it was still 10%, that means this should have been what? 121 naira instead of 115. Please, conceptual definitions of your unemployment and inflation is very key in this your level. You're in year 3 now. That definition is very important. You must be able to understand how to define concepts with respect to whatever you are considering, so that when you want to talk, you talk as an economist and don't just talk like a natural woman, please. Okay? All right. Yeah, don't talk like a natural person. I mean that, please. Yeah, don't talk like a natural person. Talk like an economist. All right. So in classifying the population for Nigeria, of course, you see, we have the working age and the non-working age. The working age, which is from 15 to 64 years, all right? Those are able, they are defined, they are capable within the law to engage in one activity or the other. Then we have the non-working age, all right, which is 15. We have the non-working age, which is 15 years and above, or 15 years below, sorry, 15 years, under 15 years, which is from 0 to 14, and those that are above what? 64, all right? Within that working age, again, we have the labor force. Those are willing, okay, and they're already able to work. Then we have those that are not in labor force. Those are not willing, even if they are able to work, okay? Within that labor force, again, we have those that are employed, we have those that are underemployed, and we have those that are unemployed. Again, those that are underemployed, check the definition. There are those that can only work between 0 to 19 hours per week. So that means even if you are doing some kind of job and you are working, those that can work between 20 hours to 34 hours per week, they are underemployed. So if you are doing a job that you work within 20 hours to 34 hours per week, you are underemployed. That is the meaning, you are underemployed. Okay? So somebody that is working for, say, 25 hours per week, 25 divided by 5 times, that's 5 hours. So if you wake up and your job is 6, you resume 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and you come back, you are underemployed. While unemployed is between 0 and 19 hours, okay? So if you are working between 0 and 19 hours per week, you are actually unemployed. So when you see somebody saying I'm unemployed, that does not mean he's not doing something. Yes, he's doing something, but the number of hours he spends in doing that particular job is still what? Not up to 20 hours per week. Again, you must also understand those are not in labor force, even if they are qualified. Example, even if they are able. Example, the married women, okay? No, let me say the married men, the housewives that decides not to work. Again, you must also understand that since unemployment is time bound, if a woman decides not to work for a particular period and is not searching, that woman will definitely not be in the what? Labor force. Another example again are those that are doing Yahoo Yahoo. Those that are doing Yahoo Yahoo, they are not also in what? Labor force. They are not in labor force. Okay? Because they are doing a work, but that work is not defined within the confines of the law. It's illegal. So to the economy, they will classify them as what? Not in the labor force, even though they are able to work. All these definitions are very critical. So that when you see statements, you see a statement of someone, you should be able to appropriately classify that person under a particular category he or she belongs to. Of course, full employed, someone that is employed works above 35 hours per week, at least above 35 hours. This particular definition is what they use, for those traveling or schooling abroad to define the number of hours you work per week. Okay, that's the same definition they use for Unilag. We are doing work study here in university in Unilag now. You people will not do work study. Of course, the ladies will not do work study because you have uncles and uncle that is providing for you. Abi? The men too, they will not do work study because they have one business somewhere, one special business that is giving you money. They don't do it again. Before, people rush for work study, but now, why would they go and be doing work study? Of course, work study again is a program designed by the counseling units for the University of Lagos to help to provide fund for students that feel like working. Let me not say to help the needy or the poor. No, even the rich also does that because maybe the person just feels like working. So they use it to define the number of hours the students will work every day. We used to have it in our department. I think there's a lady that is there now. The number of hours she resumes, I think it's 4 hours exactly. So either she will come 10 to 12, okay, and then 2 to 4, or come 10 in the morning and leave by 2, or come by 12 and leave by 4. So if the person's lectures are just from morning to 12, the person will definitely fix his or her time for 12 to 4. This definition of all those employment status and number of hours spent in work is used to define your level of what? Unemployment in the world society. Okay? So of course, the calculation for unemployment rates. Of course, that number of unemployed over labor force times 100 over 1. That's a minor thing. Then types of unemployment. Okay? Types of unemployment. Before that, let me also show you the unemployment statistics for Nigeria. All right, for Nigeria at the fourth quarter 2020, you can see that displayed on your screen. The fourth quarter 2020, you can see displayed on your screen the unemployment for Nigeria. Okay, so you can see within the ages of 15 to 24. Okay, within the people of ages of 15 to 24. All right. So you see the labor force and you see the total unemployed, 9 million, why 5 million of them are unemployed. Between 25 and 34, 20 million in the labor force, 7 million of them are unemployed. 35 to 44, 19 million are in the labor force, why 5 million are unemployed. 45 to 54, 13 million, 3 million are unemployed. 55 to 64, 7 million, 1.8 million are unemployed. Then you can also see the educational qualification of the labor force, okay? And you can see that we have many people that are in the first school leaving certificate, as well as the vocational, or those are involved in vocational or commercial activities. So as at fourth quarter, we have 69 million people. All right, 69 million people. that are in the labor force. Okay, out of that 69, 23 million are unemployed. Okay, 23 are unemployed. You know the definition of the unemployment, all right? We look at them according to certificate: first school living certificate, middle school living certificate, vocational or commercial activities, junior secondary school, senior, A levels, NC, OND, or those that did nursing. Those that have their BSc, those are in technical or vocational technical skills, or the professors, the masters, the doctorate, and others. Okay, so in terms of male and female, urban and rural, so let me just, you can see the unemployment now. So increased, okay, between the second quarter 2020 to the fourth quarter 2020 by from 27.1% to 33.3%. That's a very sharp increase. All right. Then look at the unemployment rate. Then compare the unemployment with top 5 countries, top 5 highest and top 5 lowest. So the lowest, the highest, of course, they are all in Africa: Namibia, South Africa, Angola, Mozambique. All right. And we also have Bosnia. That's in Europe. Yeah. Then the top 5 lowest: Qatar, Belarus, Niger, Myanmar, and Laos. Okay. All right. So you should have an idea or an understanding of the classifications, all right, of what? Of the level of unemployment that we have in Nigeria. And that is as at the fourth quarter 2020. That's just immediately after the pandemic. Okay. Then I just want to also show you the unemployment figures we have across states for you to also have an understanding of those that are highly states that are highly unemployed. All right, states that are highly unemployed. Okay, so we have it here also for you to see. Okay, so you can see those states. All right, and then Abia, Adamawa, Abia, unemployment rate is 50%. So I can, let me sort it now from largest to smallest. So you see, in terms of unemployment, Imo has the highest level of unemployment for the fourth quarter 2020, 56.64%. Adamawa is 54%. So you can see that from Abia down to Imo, Abia, Akwa Ibom, Yobe, Cross River, Adamawa, and Imo, they all have unemployment rates that are above 50%. And we have Edo down to Ebonyi, Edo, Kaduna, Anambra, Borno, Rivers, Abuja. You see, our own Abuja and Ebonyi, they all have unemployment rates as high as within 40%, but not up to 50%. And then we have those are in the categories of 30. Our own dear Lagos State is in that category, at 7.14%. And then we have those that are within the boundaries of below 29 down. And the list is Osun State, 11.65%. Okay, that gives you an idea of the unemployment rates that we have in Nigeria for the fourth quarter 2020. Then again, of course, it's important you also understand the types of unemployment we have. Of course, you know that. I wouldn't stress so much on that. The frictional unemployment, the structural unemployment, the natural unemployment, and the cyclical unemployment. Of course, for frictional, talks about the unemployment that exists between the time people do what? Changes job. All right. When there's a job switch, as at that point in time, the person is not working. The person would then resume later. Okay. So within that period, that person is unemployed. Okay, I have a friend that she was in a bank. I wouldn't mention the bank's name, and she was there for like 3 to 4 years. And then she has been discussing about she leaving the job, stressful and the rest. And then she had an offer initially, discussed that with me. We analyzed. Later, she decided to take it up. So, but she had to wait for like 2 months, just to refresh herself. And after that 2 months, she's refreshing herself, she's unemployed. That's frictional. Although she has a job waiting for her, okay? But at that point, she's unemployed. That's frictional unemployment. And of course, structural unemployment talks about that unemployment that exists when there is a long-term change in the patterns of the productive activities within the economy. When there's a long-term change, all right, in the structures of the economy, when there's a long-term change, all right, in those critical fiscal machineries that determine production. Remember that from your production function, Y is a function of AKL, capital and labor. Labor augments capital. The type of capital employed determines the type of labor you are employing. So when there's a change in that structure, in that capital employed, in that type of capital employed, all right, that would determine the what? Unemployment rate, okay? So that would determine also the number of people that will be what? Engaged. You take, for example, the Nigerian banking sector, the deposit money banks we have in Nigeria, and you take a clue of what happened after the global financial crisis 2008, 2009-10, all right, when technology, digital financial technology came to being, came to light, okay? And banks could now understand that you can as well transact and do your businesses using some mobile telecommunication services, using some technology to actually do that. That led to, a huge decline in the number of people engaged in the bank. I remember very well, very vividly when I was in secondary school then, my brother would send money. I was in Delta State in a boarding school. I was in a school, not a boarding school, but the school was a boarding school. So my brother would send money, and it takes only God knows 2 weeks, 3 weeks for you to reflect in someone that has a bank in where I was schooling, and I would then take it. I remember when I came down to Lagos, sending money, you had to wait for like 3 days before it reflects. Those days of AfriBank, EcoBank, you send it today, you wait for 3 days for it to reflect in the person, in the recipient's account. But all of that does not happen again. I remember those days also, you want to withdraw 1,000 naira, 5,000, you will go to the bank and stand, take a withdrawal slip, fill it and stay on the queue. In the banking hall, you now have sessions for teller. For payment, you have sessions for those that are receiving deposits, those that are paying. Just have many of them everywhere, walking up and down. Today, for Zana, I can't remember when last I entered inside my bank. The bank I use, entered inside. I can't even remember. Because everything I want to do is just there. There are POS services. You want to buy something at the retail store, you use your POS. You use your ATM. All right. Although businesses are closing down because of that, but everybody would definitely like innovative ideas that lessens their burden. That's the truth. Same goes to telecommunication industry. There was a time recharge card, some of recharge card was everywhere. There was a time Yahoo boys were busy stealing recharge card PIN. I remember those times. So if you want to recharge, you go and buy card. Today, I don't even know how many digits there is those networks now. Because whenever I just want to recharge, I just pull through to my bank, I just get recharged. Okay? All of those things, yes, they are innovative ideas, but nevertheless, they create unemployment. And so those that are into labor economics are beginning to see what is the relevance, of technological innovation, innovative ideas, the blue economy, the fourth industrial revolution. What are their implications on what? On people. A time will come that people does not do anything except creating ideas. No longer do they need their fiscal strength. That is structural unemployment. It creates structural unemployment. So by the time you start having robotics driving your cars, or you start having cars that you can program and it will take you to wherever you want to go to, all right, beating the traffic, obeying the traffic laws, you don't need a driver anymore. Okay, now you can see what is happening in mail deliveries. Okay, before we have mail services, the Nigerian post office. Okay, we have, if you want to talk to somebody, you go there. Okay, those days of our parents, they want to do love letter. They will write a love letter, sign, draw the love, take it to post, night post, and go and post it. It will not take 1 week, 2 weeks to deliver. Today, you can easily send your love to somebody that is anywhere in Canada, in Belgium. So you can take that love letter now to anywhere you want to go to seamlessly. Even people are saying no problem, sending certificates, sending transcripts, sending documents, landed property certificates, and all of that. You can imagine in US today, drones are now developed to do that. Drones are now developed to do that. I also went for a wedding. All right. I went for a wedding in Anambra State. And that was my first time of seeing that. Getting there, if somebody is doing marriage, or I went for a burial, not wedding, somebody's doing an occasion, all of those things. If I'm the photographer, I'll need to employ 4 or 5 photographers or video coverage personnel. One will be as they are carrying the corpse, let that one be there. As they are taking it to here, let that one be there. As they are doing party, capture this one here, capture that one at that end. No, I saw drone that was actually looking at drones that were actually carrying the cameras all around, taking pictures, events as it is happening. So what happens? Only one person controls the drone. And when that person controls the drone, every other person is no longer needed. Same goes to film, photography. When you used to take pictures before, you go to photo lab, Regina Mundi, to go and watch the photo. Today, digital cameras have taken over. People can even use their phones. iPhone 12, Samsung S21, Infinix, Note 10, Techno Phantom X. People can use that to actually do what? Take their pictures. So structural unemployment is becoming an issue within the globe. And people are beginning to ask themselves, we are beginning to ask, what job is left for you and I? Thankfully, today, we have jobs, all right? For example, economics, as a graduate of economics, you are still relevant. If only you can comfortably use your brain, you are still very much relevant within the space. There are people that are doing their jobs now. For example, I ask myself, what jobs will be left for those who that study European language, Russian language? Apologies, please. European language, Russian language, French, Yoruba, where you can type it on Google and Google will translate everything for you. So structural unemployment is a very critical thing. And then we have the natural unemployment, which we are going to see in the Phillips curve. All right. And then we have the cyclical unemployment. So for cyclical unemployment, that's when there are changes in demand. When there's a decline in demand, that creates unemployment. A decline in demand will definitely create what? Unemployment, which is what? Cyclical in nature, all right? Example of that unemployment is, remember I showed you the chart for last year, fourth quarter unemployment. Between fourth quarter 2020, between second quarter 2020 and fourth quarter 2020, unemployment increased from 27.1% to 33%. That is a sharp increase. That's about 4%. Think about it. That's about more than 2 to 3 million jobs that were lost. That is because there was a decline in demand due to the lockdown. So you see, lockdown, which is an health issue, a pandemic, creates what? A decline in demand. People don't demand for the services they needed again. Those demand, people don't do that. There are men that were planning for wedding. They did a parlor wedding, in quotes. Many were planning for different activities. They just had to engage in those activities just bit by bit. And there was a decline in demand. With that decline in demand, of course, staff will be retrenched. You remember what happened? I wouldn't mention the bank, of course, that trended then, gave a palliative of a 1 billion naira palliative. And then within the next 1 week or two, decided to retrench many of their staff, probably because of their financial performance, their performance index. All right. So, but what we are saying is that once there are decline in demand, that creates what? Unemployment. Please, if you are to see all this is in question, don't go and be thinking you're going to see a slate the following inflation and unemployment, cyclical. You will see a statement. You should be able to identify the type of unemployment that is what? Predominant within that particular case. All right. So that explains that. The frictional unemployment, I've explained it, the structural, okay. And I told you the implications we have in the financial technology in the banking sector. I've explained that. The telecommunication industry, I've explained that. The post office. These are different scenarios at which the concept of the structural unemployment can see its place. All right. Typists, the financial technology in the banking industry, in the banking sector, the telecommunication what industry. Then the natural rate of unemployment, okay, that is what I would define it there. What I was telling you is the same thing with that of the unemployment that exists during what? Full employment. We'll explain it there. Then, under that cyclical unemployment that talks about unemployment that is due to a fall in demand, all right? Okuns was the finance minister for Kennedy, for JF Kennedy. He was either, please check, he was either the finance minister or he was the US Central Bank is called is a reserve, no, UK is a reserve bank. Imagine. Either it was the central bank. Federal Reserve, thank you. Either it was the Federal Reserve, the governor, or it was the Minister of Finance then for Kennedy. Do check, please. So, but Okuns tried to look at the relationship between output and unemployment. That's the Okuns law. Provided a relationship between output and unemployment. And then he came up to say that for every percentage point increase in unemployment will result into a 2.5% decline in real GNP below the natural output. Of course, you know that we have our natural output, which is our potential output, which is our long-run output, which is that output at which your long-run aggregate supply curve is vertical. That is our boundary. That is our long-run output. That's our output at full employment. I'm using different terms to explain that. In your microeconomics, you dealt with production possibility curve, where you drew that boundary. Points on that production possibility curve talks about your what? Your long-run aggregate supply is equivalent to your long-run aggregate supply. For that production possibility curve, we only considered two products. We linked it just two products because it's a micro analysis. Micro, you are looking at individual, okay, and agent. So you can do a comparison between two. But at macro level, when you're aggregating, that's your aggregate supply. So economies will always be below full employment. Most times. That was why Keynes said in the long run we are dead. And Okun's, because you need to understand policies, people are designing policies with respect to happenings around them. When the Great Depression occurred in those 1930s, Keynes came up with that theory. And everybody in that 1950s, even when the World Bank was created, IBRD came up, all of that in those 50s, 40s, 50s, policies that were coming up were all tilting towards Keynes. And Keynes made us understand that we always have two outputs, our actual output and then the potential output. The potential output talks about what? Your long-run output, your long-run aggregate supply. And your actual output will always be your short-run aggregate supply, which will always be below your level of what? Actual. Okay? So, Okun's discovered that prior to we getting to your potential output, of course, your potential output is more or less like an academic exercise. That's your steady state. I know you have done development economics, but you were just deriving and cramming those definitions, those derivations. That's steady state. That's a long run part. So Okun's was saying that for every 1% increase in unemployment, it will always result into 2.5% decline in real GDP. That's Okun's for you. So that tells you that the relationship between unemployment and output is inverse. So each time you hear about Okun's law is only talking about the relationship between unemployment and output. And that's why Okun said unemployment and output are inverse. And at that point, as output increases, as unemployment increases, output will decline. Once unemployment increases, any point increase in unemployment results to 2.5% decline in what? In output. Okay? That is the Okun's law. You can also see the equation you have there. All right? You can reverse that particular equation. When you reverse it, that tells you the relationship between price and output. That tells the relationship between price and what? And output. Okay? So when Okun's law was dealing with his case, what did Okun's law do? It showed that inverse relationship. And that's why I now said price will always be, output will always be a function of what? Unemployment. Okay. All right. So let me just pause and take questions so that the next 10-15 minutes we should be done. That next 10-15 minutes we'll massively talk about the Phillips curve. Okay. So I don't know if there are questions, and I want to open up for those that are also wanting to join. Questions? Any question? Am I actually talking to myself alone? Abidemi, read one. Abidemi, read one.
Sir.
What was I discussing earlier?
The Phillips curve, sir.
I'm discussing the Phillips curve. Is that what I discussed last? Abidemi, read one. Oh, don't worry, unlock yourself. Unmute yourself.
Sir.
Is that what I discussed last? Abidemi, read one. What was I discussing before I paused? Phillips curve. You are enjoying, you are doing well. Hi, you are doing well. Adetola Ajayi. Adetola Ajayi.
Yes, sir.
What was my last discussion? Adetola Ajayi.